ॐ ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Last week we are on the topic of general topic is bondage, and then now bondage in action. So the manifestation of bondage, how does it happen? And Bhagwan in verse 145 has given us a beautiful metaphor of a tree. So just as a tree has a seed, and then the seed sprouts, and then the delicate leaves come up, and then that sprout is watered, then it becomes a whole tree. Same way, he says, this tree of sansar, the bija, the seed of this tree of sansar is ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of my true self. So because of this ignorance, the sprout comes, from the seed comes the sprout. So this ignorance, which is the seed, there is a sprout. And what is that sprout? I am the body. So there is a sense of Atma in Anatma. Atasmin tat buddhi. In that, I have a sense of this. So I say that body is mine, is me, not even mine, it's me. That is the sprout. And this sprout, then, because the body is me, I am the body, there are these two leaves, two delicate leaves come first from the sprout, and they are the desires. And these desires are giving rise to likes and dislikes. So there is actually like, desire also is a like, and desire also is a dislike. Why? Because the thing that I like, I desire to gain it, so I run towards it. And then the thing that I don't like, I desire to go away from it, so I'm running away from it. So both are desires, like and dislikes. And this sprout is watered. You know, to grow, we put water. So what we are doing is, because we have these desires and because we have these likes and dislikes, we water this tree of sansar by actions. The water is the actions that we are performing to fulfill our desires, of both likes and dislikes. I want something, so I'm running towards it, doing actions, and then I'm doing actions to avoid something that I don't like. What I don't realize is whether I like it or not like it, if it is meant for me, it is going to come to me. But I think that I can avoid it. And that is why I put in a whole lot of actions. And that actions becomes the water for the sprout to grow and become stronger and stronger. And then this whole sansar becomes very, very strong. And that itself is the bondage, because when I do action, I get results. And to fulfill that result, those results, I need another birth. Now, he goes on to say that the same thing, the bondage is caused from ignorance, and then there is project. Because there is ignorance, there comes projection. If there was no ignorance, there would never be a projection. If I had seen the rope as a rope, I would never project a snake. So, and then this projection is endless. We saw that the persecution is endless. Endless, why? In the sense that it will keep on giving rise to birth and death, and that way it will be endless. Okay, so as long as the ignorance is there, there will be projection. So the ignorance is the cause of the projection. So the antidote for the projections, if the projections are, I don't want the projections to happen, then I need to remove ignorance of my true self. And how do I remove that ignorance? By the discrimination of Atma and Anatma, which we started in verse 147. And there Bhagavan is now describing what Atma is, something which cannot be destroyed by weapons, nor by wind, by fire. I told you those are the 5 elements. The 5 elements cannot touch Atma in any way. One thing is they are in a different plane of consciousness, just like the dream food cannot satiate my waking hunger. Same way, these elements, these 5 elements are in the dream world, and that dream world cannot touch the absolute reality, the transcendental reality. Anything in the transcendental reality, anything in the transactional reality, which is Vyavaharika Satya, cannot touch something which is in the transcendental reality. So the transactional reality cannot touch the absolute reality, just like the dream reality, the illusory reality cannot touch me in my waking state. If I would have killed somebody in the dream, the police are not going to come in my waking state and say, you killed that person, now you have to be tried. That way. Okay, so this is why it is said that this Atma cannot be touched. Of course, it is also subtler than space. That also is a reason. But the main thing is that they are at different planes of consciousness. They cannot touch. Nothing can touch Atma. The snake can never poison the rope. The snake can never ever poison the rope, or the mirage waters can never wet the sand. Even if they wanted to, they can't. So, by nothing save the wonder sword of knowledge. Why is knowledge? Because ignorance cannot be removed by action, because action is a child of ignorance. It is an effect of ignorance. So the effect cannot remove its own cause. The effect is happening because of the cause, ignorance. So that effect, no matter how much action you do, it cannot remove ignorance. The opposite of ignorance is knowledge. So what is required is knowledge. And for knowledge, we need the discrimination, because unless we discriminate, unless we understand what is Atma and what is not Atma, what is the self and what is not self, I'm not going to choose the self. I will never choose that. And then he goes on to say that the one who has a deep devotion to the Shrutis. I told you, devotion is, one aspect is love, one aspect is respect, one aspect is faith. We need to have faith in what the Shruti is saying. Most of us, we think, yeah, they're saying, but that is not my experience. And you cannot experience Atma like that, perceived. You cannot perceive it. So people find it hard to believe. Like I've given you the example of the sky. I mean, the sky is blue and people think it's really blue, or the sun, they think, oh, it's really rising, but our intellect tells us that no, that is not correct. And for one who is established in Swadharma, day after tomorrow we'll be talking more about Swadharma. It's coming in Bhagavad Gita as well. I told you the story. If we can follow our dharma, the problem to follow dharma comes when we are ourselves not sure of what our dharma is. That is where the problem is. So because we misjudge what our dharma is, we do things which are not correct. That is where the problem is. So if we can correctly identify what my dharma is, and dharma is not religion, please, not that I'm a Hindu or a Christian or a Muslim or anything like that. So if I can correctly identify what my duty is at whatever moment, then that is what will release us from bondage. That will, in the sense, not a direct release, but through purification of the mind. That is what is will purify the mind. That's why in Tattva Bodh, the definition of uparati is given as swadharma anusthana. Uparati is withdrawal. So how come withdrawal is staying fixed? Anusthana is to stay steadfast in your own dharma. Because when you are steadfast in your own dharma, all these external pursuits will, because every time if you say, is it my duty to, wonder what the neighbor is doing? Is it my duty to figure out what so and so is doing? Is it? Then you will withdraw, because the answer is no. It is not your duty to see where the neighbor is going. Oh, at midnight I hear him going out of the door. Where is it? It is not my duty. Let him go do whatever. So that is what will cause your withdrawal. That this is not my duty, I want to stay away from it. This is not my duty, I want to stay away from it. That's why uparati is defined as swadharma anushthan. Okay. Then 149 we have done, na Dinesh? We've done it, right? 149. Yeah, 150. I think we were to start with 150. That's where my bookmark.
150.
Yeah. So, so he says that now he's going to do the discrimination of the 5 sheets. So he introduces it in this verse, saying that this Atma is as though word is very important, as though covered by the 5 sheets, like a sword is kept in a sheath. Sheath is the cover of the sword. If you've seen a sword, it's usually protected. So by the sheath, and this is how the Atma is. So I need to now discriminate the sheets one by one. The title of this book is Viveka Chudamani. Chudamani is the crest jewel of discrimination. So he's going to analyze this discrimination until it's like, okay, until you have no choice but to understand. This is what now Bhagwan Shankaracharya wants to do. If you think that you're the body, now I'm going to like dissect it and dissect it and dissect it so much that ultimately you're going to say, okay, okay, Bhagwan, I agree, I'm not the body. That's why it's Vivek Chudamani. Remember, Chudamani it is. It is like the Kohinoor diamond, it's right, it's the crushed jewel. So every single aspect he will discriminate. Like Bhagwan Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, not only jnana, but I will give you vidnyana also. Not only the knowledge I will give you, but I will give you the direct experience as well. So the wisdom, the knowledge, as well as the wisdom I'm going to give you. This is what Bhagwan has said in Gita. Same way, that is exactly what Bhagwan Shankaracharya is doing in this book. This is his poetry just flew out of him. So we see that these are the 5 sheets, food sheet, and we have seen. And then these sheets are as though covering the Atma, the self, because the self can never be covered. I told you the clouds, we have seen that. We say that the cloud is covering the sun. It's really actually not possible. It's impossible. But to our eyes, it's covering our eyes. So we need to remove this sheets. Now we are on verse 150. Tat shaivala apanaye samyaka salilam pratiyate shuddham trishna santapaharam sadhyaha saukhya pradam param punsaha. When the moss is removed, absolutely pure water, which can quench the pangs of thirst and give immediate joy, becomes visible. See, in India, we have seen all of us, I mean, I have seen, there is a lake or a pond, and on that collects this green moss. In Marathi, here also the word shaivala is used. In Marathi also it is called, similar word is there. So it's moss, it's green moss. So just as that moss is covering the water, and where did the moss come from? Because of the water. It's very similar to the cloud and sun. How did the clouds get formed in the first place? Because of the sun. And then what did the clouds do? They only covered the sun. Same way, the water itself created the moss, and the moss only is now covering this clean, pure water, which can be actually drunk. But when you look at the moss, you think it's dirty. But the minute you remove, you separate that moss with your hands or whatever, you will see that clear water underneath. And this is what now Bhagwan intends to do, Bhagwan Shankaracharya, is that these 5 sheets are like the moss covering the water. So the 5 sheets have come from the self, because the self is the creator of everything, and they only seem to be covering the self. So one by one now we are going to dissect, and we are going to like literally, kill all these this thing. So a lot of repetition, please. I cannot help it. Bhagwan himself has done it. Okay. Panchanam api koshanam apavade vibhati ayam shuddha nitya ananda eka rasaha pratyak rupaha param swayam jyotihi. When all 5 sheets have been negated, panchanam api koshan apavade. Apavad is negation. That is vyatirek. We have heard the term anvay vyatirek, assertion and negation. So this vyatirek has to be done first. You negate, or we have also heard the word neti neti. I've said that word. Naiti, naiti. So you go on negating, this is not it, this is not it, this is not it. Then what remains is, that is anvaya, self. The self is not like an onion. The example of onion that we should know. So because when we peel an onion, we go on peeling the layers, nothing will be left inside. So the example that Shastras use is of the munja grass, or more commonly, I give the example of a banana. You peel the banana, there is a sweet, soft middle in there that can be eaten. It's not like an onion. So this is what he says, that these 5 koshas, when we separate them, when we negate them, not physically destroy. Nobody is destroying anything physically, but in our mind, I told you, like, I see the blue sky, but my intellect has negated it. My intellect knows that it is not blue. My intellect knows that there is no sky. That is all is being asked here. No need to destroy the body. No need to do anything to the body. But in your mind, you know that you are not the body. That's all we are. It's Vedanta is only a shift in vision. It is not anything that you have to do. Vedanta is understanding, not doing. So this is what he says. When one by one we remove these koshas, and that's what he's going to do now. One by one, he's going to remove these koshas. Then what will be left over is nitya, eternal, ananda, blissful, eka rasaha, one homogeneous mass of bliss, which is eternal, which was always there, which is there now, and which will remain after as well. And it paraha swayam jyotihi, it will shine by itself. Just like you remove the clouds, you do not need a flashlight to see the sun. The sun is swayam jyotihi. It will shine by itself. You only remove the clouds which are the obstacle in front of your eyes. Only you do only that. Even the example of cataracts is given. So when a person has cataracts, it's not very clear. They say this is how it's not very focused, whatever they say. Then they say, okay, you don't worry about anything else. We'll just remove the cataracts. Everything else will become very, very clear. That's exactly the same idea. So we are now going to go into the description of the 5 koshas. And before that, again, once more, Atma Anatma Vivekah, Atma Anatma Vivekah, Kartavyah Bandha Muktaye Vidusha, Kartavyo Bandha Muktaye Vidusha, Tena Eva Anandi Bhavati Swam Vidnyaya Sachidanandam. The wise man, Vidusha here is that is the wise man, should discriminate. Kartavya, he says. Kartavya, it is our duty. It is the duty of the wise man, or it is our duty. Kartavya means it's a sort of a command. This is my duty. I must do it. This is what he's saying. It's not that you have a choice. You may do it. It's not a kartavya word is used. It's not like, oh, he may do it. No. He must. Okay. should discriminate between the self and the not self in order to remove the bondage. Topic is going on of bondage because the student has asked, Kaha bandha, what is bondage? So he explained what is bondage. Now, only the explanation of bondage is not enough. It is the master's responsibility to tell us how to get out of bondage. What's the point in explaining this is bondage? But then what should I do? Then that's why the master is now explaining how you get out of it. And he says it is your kartavya, it is your duty. That's why he has started off saying that the human birth is very, very rare. Okay. Even same thing in chapter 7, Bhagwan says, among thousands and thousands of men, only few aspire. Out of those few, one may come to me. So at least we have to aspire. At least we have to try. Okay, so we will succeed in some birth, maybe not this birth, but maybe in some future birth. So kartavya bandha muktaye, that's why I've always said there is a big, big if you want to get out of bondage. And people, I said, most of the people don't even think they are in bondage. That's the problem. See, it's like, Gurudev had once given an example in Bhagavad Gita. He said, one man was sitting in front of him and smoked. Gurudev, I can give up smoking anytime. I've given it up many times. So unless I even admit to, people who are addicted, unless they even acknowledge the fact that I am addicted. If I say, no, I am not addicted. No, I can do without alcohol. I can do how we will try to get out? So we don't even acknowledge because we don't even know we are in bondage because we are only seeing the garland. Happy, happy, happy. What is there? I'm doing everything with good intentions. Then we don't see that. That's the problem because we don't remember our previous births, which is a blessing by Bhagwan. Then tena eva anandi bhavati. Tena eva, that person alone. Eva is alone. That person who discriminates between Atma and Atma, he will be anandi bhavati. He will be permanently blissful because he will identify with the bliss. Swam Vidnyaya Satchidanandam, his own self, because he will only then will he realize who he is. Right now he's thinking that he's the body, mind, intellect. When he discriminates, he will come to realize that, oh, I'm not that, I am this. I am this Atma. And that is what will break the bondage forever. Okay, because why should I do this? Everybody, it's like a Vaishya mentality. What do I get if I do this? You will get that permanent bliss. That is the promise of the scriptures. That is the promise of the scriptural masters, realized masters. Okay, I'm not saying it. They are saying it. Munja adi ishikam eva drashya vargat pratyag atmanam asangam akriyam vivichya tatra pravilapya sarvam tad atmana tishtati yaha saha muktaha. Yaha sa muktaha. Such a person is mukta, is liberated. He who separates, who is liberated? He who separates all sense objects, perceived, felt, and thought of, from the subjective, unattached, actionless self. Like the enveloping sheet separated from the core of the munja grass, he is free for having merged everything with it. He remains ever identified with it. It here means Atma. So this munja grass example has come here. It is from the Shastras. Many Upanishads have given it. It is there. So there is this munja grass which is actually used in the havans and all. When they do the Arya Samajis, they do a lot of havan where there's a fire ritual and they offer oblations, etc. They put because when we used to do, they will put these munja grass, like there will be that havan kund which is rectangular. So there'll be four. They will put munja grass on four sides of that. It's a very holy kind of a grass. That is what is used in havans. But that one, it has you can peel and there'll be a very soft stalk inside. That is why this munja grass is used to denote the sheaths, which when you remove the sheaths, when you negate the sheaths, then in there you will find the Atma. That is the example that is given. So what he says is the one who separates sense objects, perceived, felt, and to PFT. Perceiver, feeler, thinker. Remember our chart. Okay, perceiver, feeler, thinker. So when the perceived objects are removed, the perceiver drops. Why is there a perceiver? Why am I a seer or a perceiver? Because all of you are there. If you go away, then I'm no longer a perceiver. Understand it? Why do I feel? Because there are emotions to be felt and thoughts to be thought of. That's why Gurudev has said, when the last thought is thoughted and there is no more thoughts remaining, is Gurudev's, huh? Then what remains is Atma. Then what remains? That's why he says here that these sense objects which are perceived, felt, because first they are by a sense object, first I see. Then, oh, lovely, oh, how cute, I should have that. My life is incomplete without it. Now I start thinking what action I should do. That's why perception, then first sense object, then perception, then feeling, and then thought running, and then the action running after it. So when that ends, when that sense objects end, what will remain is the pure witness, Sakshi Chaitanya. Not even Sakshi, we cannot call it Sakshi at that point because all the sense objects have now been removed. Okay, he is free, having merged everything with it. So the one who is free is the one who can negate this entire world, and in the entire world is included BMI. That also is a thing that we have to understand, because I think that the world, this is me, this whole structure, and outside of this is the world. That I can understand. I'm not saying computer is me, book is me. I don't say that. But this body, I say, is me. This is what is being told, that this body also is in the world. Body also is inert. Body, mind, intellect is part of the world. And that's why it needs to be negated. Now, negation of the 5 koshas. Please have patience, because Bhagwan is every single aspect of this kosha, especially the food sheath, Annamaya kosha. So before we start with the 5 koshas, I hope everybody remembers, there is the Annamaya kosha, which is the food sheath. Then there is a Pranamaya kosha, which is the pranas. Then in the chart, the Pranamaya kosha is not shown. It is between the B and the M. Then the M is the Manomaya kosha. The I is the intellectual sheath with Jnanamaya kosha. And the V, which is shown at the top right below Atma, is the Anandamaya kosha. And the reason it is called as Anandamaya is because it is which sheath is closest to Om. Right after Om is V, Anandamaya, and that is the state of deep sleep. And in deep, when no matter which being it is, it may be a dog, a cat, animal, human being. Once we are in deep sleep, we are in bliss. We cannot say that I was so unhappy, I was fast asleep and I was very unhappy. Nobody says that. Nobody can say that. So that's why that is called as Anandamaya kosha. Now he's one by one, he's going to take up for discrimination. That's why Vivek Chudamani, I told you. Dehaha ayam annam anna bhavati annamaya tu kosha cha annena jivati vinashati tad vihinaha twak charma mans rudhihi astihi astihi purishaha na ayam swayam bhavitum arhati nitya shuddhaha. Now he's starting the explanation of why the Annamaya kosha, what it is and why it cannot be me. That is the discrimination. So to discriminate, we have to know what it is, and then we say, then only we can tell why I'm not. Because why do you say I'm not the body? We can say like that now. Why all this while I was thinking. So he says, now think about the body. Let's think about only the B in the chart, only the B we are thinking, only one kosha. This is the first kosha, it's beginning. It's from, imagine 10 verses dedicated to only the, so how important he must have felt, because that is the greatest identification that we have is with the body. That's why. The body is a product of food. All of this is our own experience. I'll tell you. It constitutes the food sheath. It exists because of food and dies without it. It is a bundle of skin, flesh, blood, bones, and filth. Never can it be the self-existing, the eternally pure Atman. Reason number one, why I cannot be the body. Okay, so body is a product of food. How is it a product of food? So what we know is our experience. We don't need Shastra to tell us that there is the sperm and there is an egg, and then that sperm is coming from the male and egg is coming from the female. But where did the sperm come into the male is from the food that he ate. Anybody denying this? It's experience, right? So the food that the man ate became sperm, lodged into the egg. How did the egg come from? From the food that she ate. Fine. Then it merged. There was a fetus. How did the fetus, who fed the fetus? The mother, na? Whatever the mother, isn't it? During pregnancy, that's why they say mother should eat healthy food. She should not do drugs. She should not smoke. Because whatever she's ingesting, it's going to the fetus. It's being fed. So that body, for the first 6 weeks where the Jivatma is not there, it is only the shell, that body is maintained by the food that the mother is eating. Right? So it survives on food. And then when it is born, again, the first thing it needs is milk, food. So, and that's why it is called the food sheath. I told you that the rishis, our rishis, they were the subjective scientists, okay? Their lab was their own body. This is what, see, there are these objective scientists who have a lab, and then in that lab, they discover things or invent things for the comfort of man, for us, for our comfort. That's what I told you, the refrigerator, the air conditioning, the heater, all those kinds are for outside. But the rishis, they didn't have an external lab. They only thought of their own body. They only thought of the 3 states that the body goes through: waking, dream, and that's why it is a subjective science. So when they looked at their own body and they thought that, oh, this body, it came from food, that it's nothing but food. And then how does it survive? It survives on food. That's why they named it food sheath. That's why it is called Annamaya Kosha. Survives on food. And then Annena Jivati, it lives by food, and Vinashati Tad Vihina. Tad means without Anna, Vihina, without Anna, it will die. The body will die. Gurudev had given a very, in his humorous way, I cannot remember all the things that he said. He said, so there is a newly married couple, all lovey-dovey. 3 days, they are, in total bliss. On the 3rd day, the wife says, enough love, I am hungry. Go out there and earn some money and bring me some food. He says, love is for the mind, but the body needs food. You cannot, the body cannot, no matter how much you love the person, unless you feed, then body cannot this thing. And if anybody has any other opinion, let me know, right? No matter how, when I'm hungry, there is no love. Give me food, that's it. There is no love. And what is it made of? This already he has described. Twak, skin, charma. Charma is what? Flesh, blood, bones, and filth. If you go inside the body, if your skin is removed, finished, nobody will look at us. Nobody. No matter how much they say they love us. Okay, that's enough. Mom, I love you, but please put your skin on, right? So it does. That is what the body is. And now I'm thinking that I'm the body. Think about it. One very good deterrent in knowing that I am not the body is, if you think you're the body, then fecal matter, then you're saying I'm the fecal. Because why? Body cannot remain without urine and fecal matter. Cannot. So just it's a it's a it's food. It's only food it is. And you know, after it dies, it becomes food for somebody else. Even while it's alive, there is bacteria inside of us. They're eating us. We don't know that, thank God. That's only thank God we have to say that we can't see what is going on inside our intestines. Sorry to say that, but that's how it is. And when it dies, it is food for somebody else. So it comes from food, sustained by food. So something which is that dependent on something else, how can I be? That's the question. Like I'm dependent on food. Without food, finished. I'm finished. Body is finished. I am not finished, but body is finished. Now I'm saying I'm the body. Think. Now, so it cannot be the ever pure and resplendent Atman, because the parts that constitute it are finite. That's the last part that Gurudev has put. That's why he said, Nayam Swayam Bhavitum Arhati Nitya Shuddha. The Atma is Nitya, eternal, and Shuddha, very, very pure. So the body is impure. Body is always impure. You can never purify the body. Remember that. That's why what needs purification is the mind. Mind can be purified. Absolutely can be purified. Made very, very, very pure. Extremely pure. Body, no. No. It can never be pure. We think we'll clean and put perfume and all that, you know, but that is only external. Inside you cannot clean it. Purvam Janiradhimrite. No. Purvam Janaha Adhimriterapi Nayamasti Jata Kshanaha Ksanaguno Niyataswabhavaha Naiko Jadascha Ghatavat Paridrishyamanaha Swatma Katham Bhavati Bhava Vikara Veta. Purvam Janiradhimriteerapi nayamasti Jata Kshana Kshana Guno Niyataswabhavaha Naiko Jadascha Ghatavat Paridrishyamanaha Swatma Katham Bhavati Bhava Vikara Veta. Before its birth, it does not exist, nor does it continue to be after its death. It lasts only for a short period. Its qualities are fleeting and by nature subject to change. It is diversified and inert, and like a jar is a sense object. How then can it be the self, the witness of all changes in all things? Reason number 2. So the Atma is Nitya, beyond time. It was there in the past, in the present, and will remain in the future. This body was not seen before its birth. It is being seen right now, and it is going to not be seen after its death. This is the reason that Bhagavan gave Arjuna in chapter 2, saying that which was unmanifest became manifest, and what is manifest will become unmanifest, and what is unmanifest will become manifest again in some other form. What is there to grieve? This is one of the reasons that Bhagavan is given there. This is the same thing he says, that something which was not available before, it means what? It is not eternal. It was not present in the past. It is present only in the present, and in the future it is not going to be present again. So that which is in time, born and die, will die in time, how can that be Atma? Because Atma is being described as Nitya, eternal, beyond time, which was there in the past, in the present, and will remain in the future. So how can the body be that? So this is the second reason. And it changes. Constantly it is changing. We have seen that. We saw the 6 changes that happen in the body, and the Atma is supposed to be changeless. So how can the body be Atma? How can the body be self? And na eko jadascha ghatavat paridrishyaman. So just like I see a pot, a jar, the body can be seen. It can be perceived. It can be, all 5 senses can perceive. I can see it, I can smell it, I can taste it, I can touch it. All 5. So it's very, very gross. Mind, I only know. I cannot touch my mind physically. Right? Mind is, but body is totally gross. So something which can be seen, and we are saying that Atma can never be seen. Atma can never be perceived. So how can the body be Atma? This is the question. So this is what is being asked. Swatma katham bhavati. Swa atma katham bhavati. How can it be my atma? How can it be the atma? Something which I see. See, I cannot be something which I'm seeing. Okay. Now, here people have a problem because they say, I need the body. This is even in my senior class, people have asked that to me. Say, but Jaya, we need the body. Yes, we need it's an instrument. So if there is an instrument which I need, do I become the instrument? Like right now we're having a Zoom class. I need the computer, right? Or a tablet or a phone, something, some instrument I need. Do I become that instrument? Just because I need something, does it make me that thing? I need clothes on my body. Do I become the clothes? I need a car to travel. Do I become the car? So this part people don't understand because they say, no, no, body to I need. Yes, who says no? That's why we are telling you, take care of the body. We are not saying don't take care of the body. Just like you would take care of your car, your clothes, your computer, your fridge, your appliances. These are all these instruments that we need. So I cannot become the instrument. I am the one that is using the instrument. I am not the instrument. So body is an instrument. It is a vehicle that has been given to us. That's why treat it with respect. That's why don't put unnecessary things into the mouth. Don't overeat. All this thing comes with, when you treat it like an object, you know, there's this body that has been given to me. I should take care of it. Not I am the body. That doesn't mean. So please understand that. So just like whatever is seen is inert. We have seen that, those who have studied chapter 13 with me, whatever is seen is inert. So if I see the body, it is inert, but I'm a conscious being. So how can I be that inert body? That is another reason. Okay. Panipadadiman deho natma vyangepi jivanat tat 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 shaktera nashacha na niyamaha niyamakaha. The body which is made of arms, legs, etc. cannot be the Atman, for even if these organs are amputated or removed, it continues to function efficiently. It is thus subject to the rule of another and cannot be Atman, the ruler of all. So body has parts, we know that, okay? Body, there are people who are deaf or they are dumb or they are, cannot see, blind. Are they not living life? Sometimes the hand has to be amputated. Sometimes the leg has to be amputated. Maybe there's gangrene or whatever, right? Are not now there is artificial, we have the war amps, artificial leg is there, whatever it is. Maybe they have a little bit, they cannot do things that all normal people can do, but are they not living life? With Shastra, we don't need Shastra. We only need to think of these things. So when that a part of the body goes away, the body can survive without one part. Right? Organs are removed, it continues to function. It is so obviously what it means is that it is being ruled by somebody. That's why I say na niyamaha niyamakaha. So it is being ruled by somebody else. Understand that body is something different from me, and I am the one that is ruling the body. One part of this instrument is missing, but instrument can function, right? Correct. Okay, so that this what tells us that it's something else. Somebody else is ruling it. So am I going to be the one who is ruling it, or am I the one that is being ruled over? We don't like if somebody controls us, we don't like, don't control me, don't tell me anything, right? So why do we be under the control of the body? Okay. Now, see, he's giving reasons, huh? One by one by one. See how much discrimination he's doing. And even though there is repetition, that's how it is. Deha tadvat, deha tadvat, deha tadvat, deha tadvat tad mat karma tad avastha adi sakshinah sat eva swatah siddham tad vailakshanyam atmanah. It is self-evident that the Atman is the enduring reality, that it is different from the body and its characteristics, its states and activities, that it is a witness of them all. The proof of this is, our three states: waking, dream, and deep sleep states. Okay, so in the waking state, I undergo experiences and I remember them the next day or whenever, or I remember whatever has happened. Then whatever I dreamt also I remember, and I also remember that when I wake up, I had a good night's sleep or I did not have a good night's sleep. So that is what tells us that there is something else other than the body, something else. We may not know what it is right now, but there is something else. And this is the discrimination that we have to do, that there is something else and that is what I am, and I'm not the body. There is something other than the seen, because I see my waking state, I see my dream state, I know my deep sleep state. So that I has to be different from what is being seen, and whatever is seen, whatever is perceived is inert. And Atma cannot be inert. Atma is not inert. Atma is conscious. शल्यराशिरमांसलिप्तो मलपूर्णोति कश्मलः कथं भवेदयं वेत्ता स्वयमेतत् विलक्षणः. How can the self, existent Atman, the knower, ever be the body, which is a packet of bones covered with flesh, full of filth and extremely impure, for it is always distinct from it? So again, he's wondering, like how Bhagwan also wonders in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagwan, there is a wonderment. One who knows he is the Atma, how he can act if he knows that he is the Atma and Atma is non-doer? That way Bhagwan Shankaracharya is also wondering, like, how can people think that they are this packet of filth? Gurudev actually called it a garbage bag, literally full of garbage, not just an empty garbage bag, full of garbage. And then he said, you put lipstick on it, you put eyeliner on it, you put makeup, you make it beautiful. But actually it is only a bag of garbage. In his Vivek Chudamani lectures, if you listen, that's what he has said. But we give it so much, because you see, I think it's me. Oh my God. You're calling me a packet of filth? Are you kidding me? I am so beautiful. Oh, look inside yourself. Physically look inside. You will find only dirt, nothing else. Tvang mansamedosti purisharasha aham matim mudha janak karoti vilakshanam veti vicharashilo nijaswarupam paramartha bhutam. The foolish man, mudha janaha karoti, the foolish man identifies himself with the skin, flesh, fat, bones, and filth. But the man of discrimination knows that his self is distinct from the body, unique and the only reality. So here, mudha, foolish, in Vedantic terms, foolish doesn't mean uneducated or anything. There are a lot of highly educated people. Bhagavan Shankaracharya, that's why calls a mudha is one who doesn't know himself to be the self. That is what a foolish person is. It is not an uneducated person. It's not degrees that makes you not foolish, as per Vedanta, And so again, once again, it's skin. That is what it is. If you really analyze the body, it is just skin, flesh, fat, bones, and this thing. But the man of discrimination, here man of discrimination is a realized master. The one who can discriminate between these two knows that his self is distinct from this body. That's why we must never consider, that's why I've always told you, the first step is, you may not know who you are, but know that you're not the body. That much you should know. That is the bottom line. There's a bottom rung, that I am not this body. This body is a vehicle that is given to me. So I will take care of the body and I will use it like my servant. Gurudev used to say that it's your servant. It's like this computer, right? It's my servant, because when I want to use it, I will turn it on and I will use it, and then I'll switch it off and not look at it. Body also should be like that. But I do take care of the computer. If something goes wrong, immediately I'll call for help and do it, right? Because I need it. I need the body. That can never be denied, that the body is needed. And that's why it needs to be maintained. That's why it needs to be kept healthy. We'll take up this verse quickly. देहोऽहमित्येव जडस्य बुद्धिः देहे च जीवे विदुषस्त्वम् देहे च जीवे विदुषस्त्वम् हम दिहि विवेकविज्ञानवतो महात्मनः ब्रह्माहमित्येवमति सदात्मनि. I am the body, thus thinks a foolish man. A man of mere book knowledge considers himself to be a combination of the body and the jiva. But the realized sage, because of his discrimination, knows that I am Brahman and looks upon the eternal Atman as his self. So 3 levels have been given here, and this is what explains the 3 schools of philosophies that have sprouted from the same Vedantic literature. So the foolish man thinks I am the body. Okay, this is Mudha. So he thinks he's the body. Okay, fine. A man of mere book knowledge considers himself to be a combination of body and jiva. So there are these other people who they don't consider themselves entirely to be the body. They know that there is something in between. That's why this jiva status has been actually created. So they think that it is body plus jiva. The example of this body plus jiva is Nachiketas' father. In Kathopanishad, we see the story of Nachiketas, who goes to Lord Yama, and as a second boon, he says, my father wants to go to heaven. See, those people who have this idea of heaven know that this physical body is not going to heaven. So they know that there is something else which is going to go to heaven. And therefore they do all these yajnas and all to reach the heavens. And that's what Nachiketas' father wanted to do. He knew his body is going to die here and everything, but that jiva is there. So he gave reality to the jiva, and that jiva is going to go to heaven. So that's why I need to do this Agnihotra karma, which will take my jiva to heaven. And that's why Nachiketa said, my father wants to do it, so I want to know how it is, so I can go back and tell my father. But the real a realized master knows that he is Brahman alone. So here there are these 3 schools that we have always talked about. The first line, I am the body, thus thinks a foolish man, is the Dvaita school. Not that they are foolish, please. No, but they think they are the body. So what happens is, when I think I'm the body, then God also has a body. That's why Raman Maharshi has said, if you consider yourself to have a form, then God has a form. And therefore this Dvaita school has come. See, Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita and Advaita, all 3, they are Uttar Mimamsa. So they believe in the Vedas. They believe very much in the Vedas. Okay, they believe in God. That is just like, but what the Dvaita school says is that I am a child of God. There's the Brahma Kumaris. I am a child of God. Everybody is a child of God. So they are also telling good things, because they say he's the father. He's the father of all of us. So we are all brothers and sisters. And so we must never hurt each other, harm each other. So that is it's a good philosophy for those who are unable to understand the oneness. I've given you the story of the rain. If the child is small, then we have to tell him that there is an elephant sitting in the sky who is pouring water on the earth. Then he's very happy. He thinks grandma knows everything. And dad, what does he know? Because dad explained the theory of evaporation and condensation, and what is that supposed to mean, right? So that's because they knew that there will be people who will not be able to grasp that final idea of Advaita. This Dvaita school was created, and Vishishta Advaita, the one who thinks I'm the body with the jiva. Now see, Dvaita school in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, Sutre Manigana Iva, the Dvaita school says, Bhagwan said, Sutre Manigana, I am the sutra in that necklace of pearls. So we are the pearls, and Bhagwan is separate, he is the thread. That is where Dvaita, they're interpreting that verse like that. It's Bhagavad Gita only. And Vishishta Advaita is picking it up from 15th chapter where Bhagavan says, Mamai Vausha Jiva Loke. Mama Ansha Jiva Eva. He says, my part is Jiva. And that is what they pick up. And they say that, okay, I am a part of God, which is also not bad. I mean, better to be part of God than part of Satan or devil. So part of God is, that is for the people who are unable to grasp this final idea. But the final truth is Advaita, that there is no difference between me and Brahman. So all these three masters that Gurudev has given, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja and Shankaracharya, all these three, they were all Advaitins. Please understand. See, even in Bhagavan Vedvyasa has written the Brahma Sutras. So the Karma Sutras, the Karma on the Karma Kanda has been written by Jaimini. And please understand that Jaimini was the foremost disciple of Bhagavan Vedvyasa. So if he was a foremost disciple of Bhagavan Vedvyasa, would he have been anything other than an Advaitin? He was an Advaitin. But Bhagavan Vedvyasa said to him that I'm writing this Brahma Sutras, which is the oneness between Jiva and Atma, but all people will not understand. They are not capable of understanding that. So you write on the Karma Sutras. Vedvyasa has asked him to do that because Jaimini was his disciple. So Jaimini, he knew Advaita Vedanta, but he purposely wrote Karma Kanda, and therefore more people are following Karma Kanda because they cannot understand. So, okay, so through that karma, and that is what we'll see now in Bhagavad Gita, this is how Bhagavan will take Arjun. Okay, you don't understand the highest standpoint, no problem. I'm coming down to your level, and from that level, I'm going to take you up. Because the master will always do what is where the student, the level of the student, the master has to come down. The student cannot go up. Suddenly the student cannot go up to the level of the master, but the master, because he has done PhD, he can teach a 5th grader, 6th grader, 12th grader, he can teach, he can come down, but the student can't go up. And that's why these three have now come up. So we'll stop here today. There is more, and then he'll go into the other koshas. Any questions? Anybody wants to say anything? Any questions? Everybody's all clear now that we are not the body? Please, it just pains me when somebody says, oh my God, Jaya, I need the body. Yes, I'm not denying that. I'm never going, because I need my body. How can I speak if I don't have my body? Think about it. I can't speak. I can't take class. So body is very essential. But I am not the body. That you can never say. That's why you take extra care of the body. Not to beautify it, not to, like people think I'm young. No, see, that's why I'm saying inside what is going. No, I take care of the body because I need the body, because if I want to help others, if I want to help somebody else, I need a healthy body. Otherwise, how I can help people? Right?
Sorry, I had one question. It's not related to what we are studying today, but what do you advise us? Like somebody plans on getting themselves euthanized in the near future. So what is our role, or what does Vedanta say, or how do we deal with that? Because it's now become legal in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So,
but then there are restrictions.
Yeah. I mean, that person has gone through like all the
procedure. So as long as all legally, he must be on the up and up.
Yeah.
Like all the legal procedures must be followed. See, you have to understand, if you take the absolute standpoint, really there is no death. Okay, so you're taking the absolute standpoint. If you come to a lower standpoint, if you consider yourself of the body, but Vedanta doesn't consider ourselves to the body, and even there, like Bhagavan says in chapter 2, the body will perish and it will come back again. What is the age of the person? You're muted.
Maybe in the 80s somewhere, and quite sick.
Terminally ill, right? So he has decided to end his suffering. He will whatever prarabdha is remained, he will continue in the next birth. It will continue, right? It will continue. It's his decision. It's his decision. Atma never dies. So he cannot touch. We said, even if Atma wants to kill itself, it cannot. So his body he wants to give up because it's suffers. There's no hope of recovery. So then that way, it's a release, na, for him. It's a release. So hold on to the absolute standpoint. Then there will not be grief. And he's 80 plus then, and it's his decision. So he's of sound mind. He has made a decision himself. As long as there's nothing illegal, somebody else's fault, that shouldn't be there.
Jayaji,
Yeah.
this is Kalpana. Will he come back? Because he will obviously not live through the prarabdha for the pain he would have gone through if he euthanizes himself. So will that be carried forward in the next birth then?
One thing you have to understand, that the very fact that he has made a decision knowingly, his prarabdha is coming to an end. Otherwise, people don't make such decisions. So his prarabdha in this body is coming to an end. So now the jiva has made that decision to go. And whether he will come back or not will determine whether he had realized. We don't know what kind of background he had. If he has not realized himself to be that Atma, he will come back for sure. He will come back. But depending on what type of actions he has done, we will now see that in chapter 14 as well. Depending on what what type of actions, he will get that type of a body. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a Vedantic view for such lapse of what? Suicide?
Vedantic view is that there is no suicide.
That's what I thought so. I mean, that's the case. Then what?
There is death.
There is no suicide at all.
No. There is no death. If I am that Atma, I cannot die, period. I cannot commit suicide. That's what he said. Atma cannot kill itself. Even if it wants to kill itself, it can't. And nobody else can kill it.
Yeah.
There is no death. There is
That's,
no.
That's what I wanted to get the clarification.
That is the absolute standpoint. Yes.
Jayaji.
Yes.
And also for people who are transgender, who don't feel like you're a man or a woman and you have been like you have got birth in a wrong body. So this is again the same thing, right? Like you feel.
Yeah. Atma has no gender. Atma has no sex. Atma has no profession. Atma has no relation. Nothing. It's the body. Somehow the jiva has done such actions that they have now come in a body. There are, they are confused about their sex. There are so many people who are confused about the goal in life. They don't know what this confusion comes to light, but there are so many other people who are confused what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
There's so much confusion, right? Okay. All right. Om swasti prajabhyav paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaha go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini desho yamsho bharayita brahmana santu nirbhayaha. Om sarvesham swasti bhavatu sarvesham shantir bhavatu sarvesham purnam bhavatu sarvesham mangalam bhavatu sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayah sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukha bhag भवेत्। ओम असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।